The information provided on Terminal Addiction Podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional medical or mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed therapist, or other qualified provider with any questions you might have regarding medical or mental health condition. Never disregard professional advice or delay seeking it because of something you heard on this podcast. The views and opinions expressed by the guests, the hosts, are their own, and they do not necessarily reflect those of any affiliated organization or institution. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, we make no guarantee regarding the completeness, reliability, or applicability of the content discussed. Listening to this podcast does not establish provider-patient relationship. If you're experiencing a medical emergency or mental health crisis, please contact emergency services or crisis line immediately.
Welcome back to another episode of Terminal Addiction Podcast. My name is Doug H.
And I'm RNB. And also known as Paul B.
RNB?
RNB.
All right, RNB. I thought it was like a Casey and JoJo type thing, like R&B, but RN, registered nurse.
RNB.
Got it. How you doing, Paul?
Doing okay. We're up here in the Upper Dog House studio again, and things are good.
And somewhere rolling around here is a dog. I don't know where Maggie went, but she's around. She's
around somewhere.
So we got Maggie rolling around. We also have another special guest. Paul, you want to introduce our guest?
Over on the other side of the studio, way over on the other side of the studio, literally about 4 feet from me, is a great friend of mine. Her name's Casey.
Hi, Casey. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. So, I know Paul and I have been doing this since, October. We've had a couple of guests on. We like to, talk to people about their recovery journeys. And when Paul and I set out to do this, I think our target demographic was somebody with 6 months to 2 years who was, working maybe a recovery program, maybe had been through treatment, life is starting to settle down, but there's just this what's next.
I thought we were going to talk about professional wrestling today.
We can. I'll talk. I was watching Lucha Libre Mexican wrestling this morning. So,
well, as you know, I was watching hockey when you guys came.
Were you watching wrestling before that?
I was not. Okay. But it's okay.
All right. Well, wrestling's always on if you know where to look.
Hey, do you know that I used to be a wrestler?
I did.
Yeah.
I was really,
The Helenwood Stomper.
The Helenwood Stomper.
Yeah.
So Paul's got a hell of a backstory, but I remember when we were setting out to do this, we were looking at the person, 6 months to 2 years, who's getting clean and sober, life's starting to get better, but there's just this what else is there? And so when Paul said he wanted to bring Casey on, I was very excited because I think she's working a solid program. But I'm anxious to hear about her story and some of the things you're doing. So
let's talk to Casey.
Let's do that. All right. Well, I'm Casey, and I'm an alcoholic and an addict. And I feel like I got sober I got sober when I was 24. That was the first time I was in the rooms, and I kind of had a hard time in the beginning understanding the program and fully giving up power, so it took me a little bit longer because I have about 11 months now and I'm 26 now. I feel like coming in at a young age was kind of hard, just because a lot of people around me and I don't know how to explain that.
Well, I was 55 when I came in the rooms, and you were what, 38?
I first started coming around. First meeting was when I was 16 years old. My real first attempt at sobriety was when I was 21. I had gotten 3 DUIs in 13 months. 2 of those were 15 days apart, and I was just falling apart. I ended up putting about 2.5 years sober together, from 21 to 24, in between there. But I wasn't, there wasn't a lot of, wasn't a lot of substance to my sobriety. It was just not drinking and not using. And in that period, I finished school, got an associate's. Everything was getting better, but I don't know that I was working any sort of a recovery program. There was definitely no like spiritual component. I think I had a sponsor, but I wasn't using them. And I think I was like, 21, 22, 23 years old. All my friends are out drinking and using and partying, and I was trying to go and hang out with them and kind of being counterproductive to, the sobriety part of the things. But I think I know what you're talking about. It's like you're 24, 25, 26, and it's like, but all my friends are over there doing all that stuff, or we're comparing, our lives to their lives. And I just remember, struggling, as a young person trying to get clean and sober, just because I didn't get in with a good sponsor who could explain things to me. I didn't have that spiritual component at all. And I was just kind of white knuckling it for about 2.5 years. I don't know if any of that makes sense. But.
It does. And I feel like even being that age, like I started using when I was pretty young. And all that time leading up to it, like especially to when it got as worse as it was, like being with friends and going out when they could drink normally, it was never fun for me because it would usually start as like a normal night out, and then by 11 p.m. everyone was pissed off at me and no one wanted me around. And when everyone was ready to go home, that's really when I would start getting agitated and like fighting everybody, just because I felt like it was like the night had just started. Well, my like 4-day bender had like just started. So I always remember just bouncing from friendship groups to friendship groups because I was really good at burning all of those bridges when people would talk about my use or my drinking, which kind of led me. I wouldn't say like my rock bottom was like this clear moment. I think I finally just got to a point where I knew that if I kept using and drinking the way that I was going to either die or I was going to kill myself. Mm-hmm. So, and I have a sister who's lost her life from the disease of addiction when I was really young, and she committed suicide because she couldn't get clean off of heroin. And I never really understood that growing up my whole life. And it was really scary to kind of understand, like I knew where and felt where she was coming from. And that was one of the scariest, but also like best moments, I think, in my life. Because if I didn't have that feeling that like I can still like clearly describe how it feels, and it feels like I get it a lot sometimes still when I think about like triggers or using, and I definitely think that's a really big thing that keeps me sober today.
Sure. Yeah, I was actually sober from the time I was 18 till I was 22, and when I started drinking again at 22, it really didn't become a problem until well into my career. And later on I want to talk a little bit about demons, but I didn't realize that I had a problem until I had a problem. And it required hospital stays. It required, just being told over and over again, you're going to die. And at that point, I didn't care. It wasn't death that scared me. It was stopping drinking that scared me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that jumping off point. I know some of the literature talks about coming to that point, and it's just like, do we keep drinking? Do we just keep living like this, or just pull the trigger, literally or figuratively, or do I try to do something different and try to get clean and sober? I remember I kind of had two views of the world. It was life sucks sober, and life sucks drinking. And if I'm going to have a sucky life, like I might as well drink a little bit and escape or steal a few, pleasurable moments. But nobody had ever explained to me like option 3 is like life can be okay without drugs and alcohol. I would have never, ever figured that one out on my own. And I had somebody, some people that were in my corner, some people that were supportive, that were encouraging me. They're worried about me. They don't know what to do with me. And so I watched a whole bunch of people in personal life and people around me and, go down that same path. It sounds like your sister did. I'm sorry to hear that. I think that's the first time I knew about that. But I know that feeling. I know that place. I know those thoughts and those feelings because I spent a lot of time there. And Paul wants to talk a little bit about demons, and I'm learning these days to just try to make better friends with my demons. They're there to either scare me or teach me, and that's my choice, is how I invite them into my life. But so I'm curious, what you said, it was kind of just like a culmination of everything that got you, sober. It wasn't like one grand finale. It wasn't like one big event. Like what were the last 6 months like, I guess, is my question.
There was like one big thing that happened right before I stopped drinking, but it was kind of just like normal. And I think the accumulation of all of it at once, like I was a blackout drinker. So, every single time every single time I've drank, I've blackout. And it's always been like, I'll just have one. Like I tried everything up to this point to be able not to do that and just drink normally. So it was like, only drink at home, don't drink at home, only drink out, only beer, only weed, like just cocaine on the weekends and not through the week. Like just like this insane, like I remember like planning all of this and doing all of this, and I was literally like listening to online AA meetings like throughout the day while trying to like plan my drinking and plan that like if I can just control this part of my life and figure this out, then I'll be able to drink normally. And I kind of used that all the way up to it with everything. Like it was my job, it was everyone around me, it was my family. Like everything was the problem except my drinking and my drug use. And I actually like had quite a collection of therapists that I had collected like up to this point. My parents put me in therapy for the first time when I was like 16, after like this traumatic thing that happened to me, and alcohol was actually involved in that as well. It was one of the first times I blacked out. And after that, I think I did that for a few months and then I quit. And then every time when things would get really bad and like the unmanageability would really come in, I would start seeing a therapist, and it was always like the 2-month mark, 3-month mark. And then they'd be like, oh, like you need to stop. Like they would tell me that I had an alcohol problem or a drug problem. And I remember always getting to that point and always being like, you can't help me. Like everyone, like this isn't my issue. And then I would just collect a new therapist and I would just move on and find someone else. And that happened probably with like 5 or 6 therapists before I landed on one that, to my surprise, was sober for about 24 years and was a big part of a recovery group that we know well. So, and I think it was just such a different approach, like an alcoholic working with another alcoholic, that really brought me to that point, because especially at the end of my use, I was drinking pretty much every day. And I've said this in my lead, but like I could take like a day or two off in the middle. And I remember being so proud about that when I would talk about it. And just a day between, never more than a day. But during that day too that I wasn't drinking, I was not leaving my bed. I was super sick, holed up in a dark room, and then it would just be right to it the next day. So now that I'm sober and I look back at that, and I'm just grasping onto that small thing of like, I could not drink like 2 out of the 5 or 7 days of the week, and I thought that meant that I had power over my situation. And I did a lot of comparison like that in my use too. My brother was addicted to meth growing up, and I later, because of my alcoholism, got into cocaine a lot just because it gave me an opportunity to be able to drink more. And I always remember like doing it the first time and coming out of a blackout and remembering that. So I was convinced that if I just did enough, I would never black out, which did not work. But even in those situations, like comparing myself to my brother and being like, oh, like I got this, like I'm better than you because I don't do meth. But it's like my life was in shambles, and I didn't have any real friends, and all like my relationship, I don't know how it was still existing at this point too. I was really good. It's funny. I talked about it in therapy and would say, like, I'm really good at, like, getting what I want in situations, but he was like, that's just manipulation, which is very true. But it was like anytime someone tried to talk to me about the things I did, my problems, my alcoholism, anything, I would turn it right back around on them and say everything that was wrong with them and why I'm like this. And if they had the life that I did, then they'd be treating it the same. And I think I just got to, like, my last night of drinking wasn't anything insanely different than the year. It got really bad in the last year, but I wasn't drinking at home at this point, so I was out with people and pre-gaming the pre-game to go out to a bar and then not even remembering that, and waking up the next day at a friend's house, and I officially had ended my relationship. I had called my mom and told her a lot of things about what was happening in my life that I was kind of keeping really secretive at that time. And I had sent an email at 3 a.m. to my therapist saying that I was ready to get sober. And I didn't know that until I looked at it, because I don't remember sending it. And he had scheduled an appointment. So I decided to go. And I think that that's when I really was just sitting in that room, and it was the first time I was really ready to stop living like this, because I just didn't think I could do it much longer.
I don't know if we've used it as a topic here, but I know I have in meetings before. The insanity, some of the things we did. I would walk through waist-deep snow to get to a liquor store, and I would plan my work trips so that I always had my hotel right next to a liquor store, so I wouldn't have to walk so far. The things that we did in active addiction just to get that fix is kind of mind-blowing, when we think back at it now.
Yeah, I remember drunk Doug used to leave sober Doug notes for the morning. And it was, your car's here. This is how you got home. This is how much you spent. Like, it was like detailed notes. And like then I'd wake up the next day and like sober Doug would be like just appalled as to what Doug the night before had done. I don't think I ever sent my therapist an email that said I wanted to get sober. But one of the things that I hear sometimes is alcohol kind of brings the truth out of people, and if that's what it took for somebody to reach out and ask for help and open up about things to a loved one, and to reach out, and whether you wanted to or not, there's some part of your psyche that was like, we're going to do this, and we're just going to send this email out while she's not paying attention, and we're going to reach out to the therapist, and we're going to reach out to mom real quick. And then when sober Casey wakes up, she'll have no choice but to listen to what the drunk Casey wanted to do. And I've had many, many nights like that.
I sent out drunk emails to my employers before, and that never worked out well for me.
I used to put my phone on airplane mode. That way I couldn't, but then I would drunk me would figure out how to get it.
How to get it out of airplane mode.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, one of the ladies that Paul and I got close with during COVID, a woman by the name of Rosetta, used to say that she said, I don't want to have to do the last 6 months of drinking, and I don't want to have to do the first 6 months of sobriety ever again. So that's that year, those 6 months that bookend, somebody's sobriety date. I'm curious, Casey, what was that first few months look like for you?
After that first day, I still wasn't convinced that I was an alcoholic. I thought I was going to be able to get a good week or two under my belt, or maybe a month, and then I was still very in my head that I was not going to be done drinking. And about 2 days after I started experiencing withdrawals, actually not 2 days, it was kind of when I got back from that. It was later that evening, that night, and that was kind of what solidified something for me, because I don't know, I just didn't expect to have that happen. And so after that, it was about 6 days that I felt the effects of that, and I went to my first AA meeting, And it's actually a funny story that I recently shared too, but I read online that it was like this church downtown, and at this point my brain's still working the same way, so I was like, oh, I know where that is, like I'm not going to double check it, and obviously it was the wrong church. So I'm like downtown across from like this Starbucks where a bunch of teenagers are working, and I'm just like banging on the doors, like trying to break into this church that is just locked up, and I just look crazy, and like I covered in sweat. And it's like the mid of winter, like I just still wasn't feeling well, and this lady came up to me that was walking on the street and asked me what I was doing, and I told her I was looking for an AA meeting, and she was like, oh, it's the church across the street, like down the corner. And at that moment, like I remember thinking, I was like, oh, is this like public knowledge? Like, does everyone just know that? And like I didn't know that. So I kind of forgot about it and just went to my first meeting, and walking in there and sitting down, I started to feel it then, but definitely the second meeting I went to that was outside with actually Paul, I remember feeling safe for like the first time in years, and that I wanted what everyone else around me had, and I was willing to take suggestions and do anything I could to get that, because even how scared I was and how unsure I was, I just knew I didn't want to go back to what I was doing, like the grasp of my addiction. So after that first meeting, I really grasped on to like a lot of women in the program, and I can't say how grateful I am that the program works the way it does, because I just grabbed onto these women by the coattails, followed them everywhere, went to all the meetings they went to, started to meet and talk to people, and by doing that, it just became a regular thing. I think right in the beginning, after my first meeting, I was going to at least a meeting, if not 2 meetings a day. I spent as much time as I could in meetings, because it was truly where I felt safe with myself, and I felt like a newborn baby, like out in the world trying to figure out how to live a normal life, and it was nice being in those churches and not being places that everything was a church to me at that time, like anywhere in my house, driving my car. So I just really took advantage of being in meetings early in sobriety, and then it was a little later, and then after my relapse, definitely I got into service work super, super heavy, and that was like really what changed everything for me. It's crazy, I know, but I have a really big ego, and I need to combat that as much as I can with not thinking about myself for a while. And I remember the first time that I did service work, I had no idea what it was, and no one really explained it to me, and I signed up for it, and I thought we were going to be like going to like a soup kitchen and like feeding like people who like came through there. And I went down to the church, and it was on like Thanksgiving Eve, and someone just handed me like a what are those called? This tool, like crowbars to lock the church at like a...
Oh, yeah.
An Allen wrench.
Yeah.
And someone just handed it to me and was just like, okay, here you go, just watch this. And I was like, this is what I'm doing the whole time? They're like, yeah, just sit down and talk to people. So I was really grateful for that. And after that, I just really leaned into it, and I got to meet a lot of people that way, and really listen. Like through service work is where I heard a lot of stuff that like I applied in my life. I found it really easy to talk to people one-on-one, sometimes not as much as in a like group setting. So that was really helpful for me in the beginning.
So I want to ask you a little bit about relapse. And I think you've heard me ask this question before in a meeting. You know, how many of you have never had a relapse? And you might occasionally see one hand go up. But I mean, Doug's had a relapse. I've relapsed myself. How was that? And how do you? What was your reaction to the fellowship when you came back?
So my relapse actually, thank my higher power for this, lasted one night. I had been slacking off on the meetings that I was going to, and I just couldn't get out of my head that I've never been this long without drugs or alcohol, so it has to be different. Like, since I had started my use, I had never gone, I think I was 7 months sober without doing any, see, that's another thing I should talk about too. My first round of sobriety, I was still smoking weed, and that did not work for me. And I feel like that was a big thing leading up to my relapse. And there's a lot of people I've talked to that would say I'm not sober during that. But stopping the alcohol and the drugs, the harder drugs, were a really big thing for me in the beginning. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Nope. Quite all right.
But I was actually still bartending at this time, and which was another thing I should have took a suggestion on, that eventually I wasn't going to be able to do it anymore. And I know that now for myself personally, but I remember the idea starting. I had like an NA beer 2 days before, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I drink half an NA beer and I don't want the rest of it, so this must mean I can have alcohol. And
didn't work out so well, did it?
I mean, I didn't even have a beer. Like, I remember thinking that that's what I was going to do, and then I was like, no, like, if I'm going to do this, like, I'm going to have, like, a glass of wine and, like, be classy and, like, sit down and just, like, be a normal adult who can have a glass of wine and then go home. That obviously didn't happen. I think I had a drink there, and then I had about 3 more drinks there, and then I left, and I remember driving home and, like, getting ready to turn on my road, and, like, this thing, like, kicked in, and it was just like it used to be. Like, I kept going straight. I went to the drive-thru. I got a lot more alcohol, and then I came home and immediately was just lying to my partner, to everyone around me, my coworkers calling me, and I got home and then drank that, and then ended up door dashing more alcohol because that wasn't enough. And then after that, I think I door dashed another thing. And that's a thing, my like insanity and all of it is I was like, I don't need liquor. Like, I'm trying to like not drink liquor because I know that's where it really went down for me. So I was ordering like 2 or 3 White Claws at a time from like a gas station, and I was like, this is going to make a difference for me. And I just did it like 3 or 4 times. So I wasted a lot of money that night from that. But so after all that ran out, I remembered like 2 weeks before, my partner's mom sent home like some cooking wine that they had, and he like asked me specifically if like I'd be okay with this in the house because he wasn't comfortable with it. I was like, no, I'm fine. So I drank that whole bottle. It was like cooking wine vinegar. It was very gross, but I obviously didn't care at all. And waking up the next day, it was insane, the feelings of like how my drinking, like it felt like there was no time in between from when I had stopped. Like it had picked up right where it has left off, and it was like 10 times worse because like as I was doing it, like I was saying in my head, I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. So I kept drinking more to like drown out those thoughts in my head. And I like woke up, and it was like a very common thing for me to like wake up and vomit in urine in like a random spot in my house, and just the feelings of shame and guilt were immediately there, and I immediately wanted to drink again to get rid of those. And instead I got up and I went to a meeting, and I remember getting there and just being really mean to everyone, which I like to say is not like me. I don't really, especially people who've helped me so much. And I actually talked to a person afterwards because I don't remember the meeting at all. I was still very, very drunk, and he said that I read and everything, and I don't remember doing that, so I thought that was pretty funny. But I went to therapy again that day, and talked about everything. And I remember talking with him and saying that I was not sure I was going to stop and try and get going again. Just because I felt like I had lost a lot of progress. And I I don't really know why I decided. I mean, I just took it a day at a time after that, and I started going to a lot more meetings again, and that really, I think I did over 200 meetings in 90 days after my relapse. And like, I really grasped on to everyone in the fellowship. I remember the first meeting back, like, it was actually at my home group, and they had me sit in the middle of the room with everyone surrounding me. So I was in the middle of the boat, and like, that feeling of everyone, just being there for me, knowing how it felt and hearing people's experiences with that really kept me in the rooms at that time, because I wasn't unique from that, and they knew how it felt. So I'm really grateful for that. And yeah, just a lot of service work after that. I mean, I don't think I really had a day off from that. Just taking people to meetings was a really big part.
No, and that sounds familiar. I know that I had a couple relapses. I used to think like if you put like 3 or 4 days together and then go back out, that's a relapse. It took me a long time to figure out that a relapse is a return to drinking or using after you've made a real commitment. And I remember being back out for like 4 years, sitting with all those feelings that you were just talking about. Do I want to do this? Is it as bad? Do I want to go back? All the guilt and shame that amplifies the drinking and using. Because at some point, I think all alcoholics and all addicts, we could say, I didn't know. I didn't know what AA was. I didn't know about the steps. I didn't know that this was an allergy or a disease. I didn't know what sobriety looked like. I could use that I don't know for a while. After a while, and getting in and working a program and getting involved and being involved in service work and being in recovery for a minute, like you can't say I don't know anymore. And you actually have to drink and use more to shut those voices up inside your head that are telling you that you know better and you don't need to do this and there is a place to go. But then my brain switches it around and goes, no, those people, they're all going to make fun of you. They're all going to laugh at you. They're not going to let you come back in here. It's all the guilt and the shame. I don't want to own up to this. And that just keeps people out way, way, way longer than necessary. And so it's just this culmination of feelings, emotions, thoughts that maybe I can stay out. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I'll just try to go to meetings while drinking. I've had people talk about doing that. And it doesn't work. It's either you can be drinking and go out and drink and use, or come in and find recovery. And I don't know that you can ride that razor's edge for very long trying to do both.
I think we're going to have a cliffhanger here. So I'd like to continue this conversation, but we're going to take a little break. And for most of you, it's going to be a 2-week break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the other issues that we want to talk about.
I know we want to talk about some demons. And
yeah.
So Casey, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back.
Okay.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of any affiliated organization. This content is for informational purposes only and is not intended for professional advice. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Until next time.